We just got back from a week-long trip living out of the van, and we have learned a lot. There are 1,000 different ways to live in a van, and so there are exceptions to every rule. These are our learnings, and we're talking in generalities.
One of the first things that I learned is that in terms of full-timing in a van, the food situation and preparing meals is very, very different than just car camping, because I can't do all the prep ahead of time if we were going to do this for weeks and weeks on end. So one thing that I do want to do, even though we have a stove that we can use, a lot of times we're out playing late, we come back and we don't want to bust out the stove in the dark and stand outside cooking. So I want to come up with some no-cook meals that we can kind of mix with some of the other simple meals that we have, and just kind of figure out good ways to do the food thing.
We ended up eating out a lot because we wanted a hot meal, but we didn't want to wait half an hour to 40 minutes to prepare it because it was late, like you said, and we were ready to go. So that was interesting. Another thing that surprised me was how much fuel we used. Now, because we weren't tethered living in our Airstream full-time, just in the van, we took full advantage of it and traveled like crazy. We covered probably 1,000 miles and just drove all over and got to visit all the little nooks and crannies. But I still ended up spending about 30 to 50 bucks a day on fuel. You don't have to do that if you're in a van, but the ability to just up and leave and get out there quicker really appeals. But I ended up still paying about the same as I would staying in an RV park in the Airstream as I did living in the van. So that was something I didn't plan on, was how much mileage and fuel I spent on this week.
Another thing that I've learned is that we have a small space here in the van that has to be used for everything. It has to be used for changing our clothes, getting ready for the day, cooking, working on mountain bikes, dumping footage from the cameras. It's this small space, and so because the same space has to be used for so many different things, you have to cook and then put all the cooking stuff away, and then you get ready for bed, and then you have to put all the clothes stuff away, and then you work, and then you have to put all the work stuff away. And so, as annoying as that is, it is really, really essential to make sure that everything has a place, because you just have stuff flying everywhere if you don't put everything away when you're done with it.
And we were always bumping into each other. I mean, there's nowhere to be. Everyone needs a place to be, and just putting on your shoes, you'd bump into each other or step on the dog, and there's really very little room. When we build the next phase on this, I'm going to put more lounging room in it, because there's nowhere to really lounge in here the way we built ours. And so maybe a little bench or a little chair or something where we can sit down. Maybe a little table, not sure about that, but we definitely need more of a lounging area. Then maybe someone can sit down and lounge while the other person's changing, but it's too small for both of us to change at the same time.
Another thing I've learned is that you have to be flexible about how and where you shower. We want to have some way that we can shower from the van when we're out in the wilderness to, go mountain biking and then shower. But the problem is, what happens when you're in a city and you're self-parking, just outside of town, and you're not quite far enough away to just take a shower next to the van. You've got to be able to find the places in town, whether it's a rec center or an RV park or whatever it is, where you can shower. Another thing I learned is we were used to, just in some of the experiences we had before camping, lots of places like RV parks will offer a shower rate, and that may not be the case everywhere you go. In this part of California, I guess when they do that, they have a lot of people who come through and just kind of trash the showers. So a lot of the RV parks here in Northern California where we've been, some offer just a shower rate, but some say, unless you're a guest, you can't shower here.
We called 10 RV parks before we found one that would let us just shower there. I guess they have a lot of homeless people that want to just pay $5, get a shower and move on, and they didn't want to attract that. So that was a big surprise. And like Tess said, the showering took a little bit more planning, and after 3 or 4 days without a shower, backpacking, not a huge deal. Living and working, I started to feel like a homeless person. This week, I also learned for myself that I didn't have a lot of dignity living in the van. And obviously I need to get better at it and do a better job with it, but I felt just one step above being homeless. And, I mean, there are some people who really know how to do it and are clean shaven every day and take showers every day and make it really work for them, but it's going to take a lot of effort on my part to get to that point. I really just kind of felt disheveled the whole time. My hair wasn't always combed. I was maybe wearing the same shirt I wore the day before. You know, maybe you're parking at a rest area and you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, so you walk up in the bushes and pee in the bushes. I don't like that, and I think there's kind of an etiquette about van living, and I think if you do it wrong, you can really give van life a really bad name. So if you're just, you know, camping in a Walmart parking lot, you don't have a toilet, and you just pee out your door, that's not a good thing for the community, and we're already seeing communities shut down their access to things like toilets and showers and amenities like that because people abuse it. So for me, I lost some of my dignity while doing it several days in, and I've had to get to a shower, and I just had to kind of reset, and just the amount of space we were in was too small for me, and I really felt one step above a homeless person, barely. Another thing that I learned is I did not feel nearly as safe as when I go traditionally camping and when I've gone RVing in the past. Because we're able to get to more remote places, it's a little shadier. It's off the beaten path, and something could happen to you and nobody would know. Or maybe you're gonna park in a neighborhood and stealth camp in there. It kind of freaks you out, like knowing you're kind of not where you're supposed to be. And I didn't like that aspect of it either. Was finding the gray lines of what's legal and what's not, and kind of skirting that a little bit. I didn't care for that. Another thing I learned is no matter how stealthy your van is or how much it just looks like a standard minivan, you're not fooling anyone. If it's parked somewhere overnight, everyone's assuming you're sleeping in it. And, you know, I've been on the forums where people are like, well, if you get a white one and you put a plumber's logo on the side, nobody will suspect you, so you won't get caught. You're knocked on the door by the cops. Everyone's living in a van these days on these cities, streets, and they just expect someone to be in there if they see a van parked overnight. So I've learned you're not fooling anyone like you think you might be.
The amount of clothes that I took to do this for about 1 week, I probably wouldn't want to take much more than that. Even when we go for, I think, a month and a half or two on the East Coast this summer or fall, we're going to be doing a longer trip in the van, and I'm probably only going to bring about the same amount of clothes that I've had. There's just not space. Like it'd be a luxury to not have to go that long without being having to do laundry, but you realize the flip side of that is you just have more stuff that you have to keep organized, and that is a challenge in a small space. So I think as far as clothes, 5 to 7 days worth of clothes is fine, and you just do laundry, as often as you need to. At least that's how I'm going to do it.
I agree. Same with me. There's also huge benefits to traveling in the van that we couldn't do any other way. We can just pull in somewhere at 10, hop up in the bed, and black out all the windows and go to sleep, and that is super nice. It's also allowed us to be a lot more carefree. We don't have to have an RV park reserved 3 months in advance. We can just roll into some town, and finding a spot at the last second is way easier. We're also way more nimble. We can wake up and go drive somewhere, and we don't have to hitch up. It's not a big deal. You just hop in, start your car, and leave. Another cool thing is ability to use Wi-Fi. When we RV, you can't just take an RV to Starbucks and park it outside of Starbucks. A, it won't park there, and B, it's pretty conspicuous. A van, you could totally do that and mooch off their Wi-Fi that way. Once again, you start to feel like a mooch using their bathroom and using their Wi-Fi, and I recommend supporting the companies that you're mooching their Wi-Fi off of. Go buy a coffee or hot chocolate or something. But that was a cool ability to do that. Now, on the flip side, we also took the van into really remote places, and I'm talking an hour down a dirt road, and you lost cell service 2.5 hours ago. And so working out of the van was really tricky. So unless you get to a major town, for me, it was great in the evenings, but I always had to wake up early and rush to a town to find a library or a Starbucks or something to work from. And if I'm working from inside the van, I didn't move very much, I got claustrophobic, and I didn't stretch very much. So it's not really good on my body. So I hate working from the van, to be honest. But I love the affordances it gives me to be able to, just unhitch and go wherever we want and feel a lot more free and be a lot more spontaneous. It's very different than when we have to be in an RV.
Yeah, my experience working was very different from Steve's because mine is just our passion project. So I could just go to a library, plug in, edit video, do the More We Explore stuff all day. For Steve, he's got to be, he's got the real job, and so he's got to be able to take conference calls, and he can't have background noise. So he can't just set up shop in a library all day like I can. So that was, ergonomically, it was probably a lot harder on him than it was on me.
But it's pretty cool. But I still prefer living in an RV full-time way more than living in a van full-time, even though the van affords us a lot of other things. I love that Teresa could drive it while I was working. So if I was between meetings and we had an hour between meetings and we wanted to cover some ground, I could work from the passenger seat while she was driving me there. That was so nice. We're not quite to the point where she can tow the Airstream while I work. It requires both of us. It's a team effort to tow the Airstream.
Like I can tow the Airstream, but Steve kind of needs to be focused on me, like not on work if I'm driving, because I'm still trying to get my brothers with that. So that was cool.
Nice.
Yeah. I loved a lot of the same things. I loved the flexibility, just being able to travel in this concise little minimalist package. Even though I wouldn't want to do this full-time all the time, I like having the option of taking off in this for a week or two, to go into areas that we don't want to tow the Airstream. Like, especially it's a good way, I think, to explore areas that you're not really familiar with, because like the Trinity Rivers area, you know, now that we've done it, like, I don't know, like, there are people who tow RVs through there. Now that we've done that area, I want to go back, but I don't think I want to tow the Airstream necessarily, and we know that now. So it's a good way to scope out an area for us and be able to get in there and do it and decide, you know, if it's something that we do want to do for a longer period of time and take the Airstream next time or no, or whatever. So, great way to explore.
I love our van. I'm so glad it's 4x4, because I would not enjoy van life if it couldn't get me to the remote 4x4 campsites where you have to use 4x4 to get up these really remote logging roads. And so that's huge for me. And I love those little VW Eurovans and the Synchros and the Westphalias. Those are so sweet, but they wouldn't work for me, because the whole purpose of being in a van is to be able to get deeper into the woods that we couldn't get any other way. I just wish we had a group of like 8 friends who had these with us, and we would just travel in herds around in the outdoors. That would be really cool. But I'm so glad we have this van, and we have the option for when we don't want to stay put for a while. We can just get out, stretch our wings, wing it a lot more. That was always how I thought full-time RV living was going to be, is just, you just wing it and just show up somewhere and find a free spot here or there. No, you got to be so flexible, even in the van life, with showers, with where you eat, with internet service, with where you can park overnight. There was one spot, especially in poverty-stricken places where there are a lot of homeless people, you're not going to find a shower. You're going to have a harder time finding, even just like using the Wi-Fi. It's still, they put a lot of rules to prevent homeless people from just setting up shop there. And that's essentially what you do in a van. So I think we're going to see increased stipulations on that. We saw a lot more, even on city streets, no overnight parking from sunset to 8 a.m. and $500 fines if you do that, stuff like that. So glad we have this. I couldn't do it full time, especially with all our toys in here. And thank goodness we didn't get rained out and have to spend like 8 hours in here. That would have driven me crazy. Yeah,
we got lucky with great weather, but with you know, if it had been storming, that would have been some kind of miserable. But great experience. I'm glad that we're building this out so that we have this as an option, because it's really cool to be able to do it.
And we'll get better over time. And we know a lot of you watch Van Lifers, and you're going to have a million suggestions for us. Thank you for those, but keep in mind, doing it theoretically on paper is totally different than getting out there and actually doing it. And we're aware of a lot of the cool things that we could do, like shower setups and stuff, that would work 70% of the time, but 30% of the time you need another solution. One thing we are going to do for our month-long trip is get a cassette toilet in here. Probably won't install a sink, and we probably won't install a cooktop. We don't feel like we really need those. So we'll just do a little more planning, learn how to do our cook-free meals, plan ahead a little bit more, join a gym membership where, and that's been another thing, is not every town we went to even had a gym, let alone the same gym across all of them. That's one thing when you're studying it, you're like, oh, I'll just get a Planet Fitness gym membership and just use their shower and work out there every day. That's great if you're in a Planet Fitness place, but we traveled 1,000 miles and saw one. So anyway, we've rambled on too long, but that should give you a quick gut reaction of what we learned this week living in the van.